Sometimes a military standoff in one tiny part of the world can completely upend, well, everything. We're talking about a high-stakes game that links warships directly to your wallet. And it could fundamentally change how the world buys its most vital resource. So yeah, let's break this all down. When you think about the price of oil, you're probably picturing dollars and cents at the pump, right? But what if I told you that right now, the true cost isn't about money at all? It's about power. A new conflict is forcing us to ask a pretty staggering question. What if the price of oil was control over the entire global financial system? That's exactly what we're going to get into. Okay, so where does this all start? It kicks off with one incredibly bold move. Right in the middle of a really tense military conflict, Iran didn't just fire missiles. It fired a warning shot, but this one was aimed squarely at the global financial system. They basically drew a direct line from a critical waterway to the very foundation of the oil market. So picture this. It's March 14th, 2026. Tehran starts making noises about maybe de-escalating. An Iranian official even tells CNN they're thinking about reopening a vital shipping lane they had previously blockaded. Now, on the surface, that sounds good, right? But this was no white flag. Nope. It was more like a Trojan horse. And inside was a single, absolutely game-changing demand. And there it is. The catch. The price of passage, they said, isn't cash. It's currency. Iran declared that any oil passing through its waters must be paid for in China's yuan, not US dollars. Now that is a direct challenge to the financial order that's dominated the globe for decades. So you have to ask, why this move? And why right now? To really get how Iran felt they could even make a demand like that, we actually have to rewind just a few weeks. Because this didn't just come out of nowhere. It was the climax of a military crisis that blew up incredibly fast. And when I say fast, I mean dangerously fast. Things kicked off on February 28th with joint U.S. and Israeli attacks. Just a few days later, the whole thing had exploded, leading to heavy casualties. So by March 1st, Iran decided to play its trump card. But instead of just a military response, they went for an economic one. They shut down the world's most critical oil choke point, the Strait of Hormuz. And that one move, it sent shockwaves everywhere. But why, right? How can one narrow little strip of water hold so much power over the entire globe? Well, the thing to understand is that the Strait of Hormuz isn't just some shipping lane. It's basically the world's energy artery. The military has a word for places like this, a choke point. And it's exactly what it sounds like, a narrow passage where just a little bit of trouble can create a massive, worldwide traffic jam. And believe me, when we're talking about the global energy supply, there is no choke point more critical than the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, just try to wrap your head around this number for a second. 20 million. That's how many barrels of oil flow through this one tiny strait every single day. That's a massive slice of the world's entire energy supply, all squeezed through this one vulnerable spot. So when you turn that tap off, the entire global economy feels the pressure. Instantly. And it's not just crude oil we're talking about here. The strait is also a superhighway for liquefied natural gas, LNG. About a fifth of the world's entire supply goes right through here. That's the energy that heats homes all across Europe and keeps factories running in Asia. It's a huge deal. So as you can imagine, the consequences were immediate and they were severe. Oil prices shot up to levels we hadn't seen since the early days of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The UN started warning about a devastating impact on humanitarian aid, and global supply chains, which were already kind of fragile, were just thrown into chaos. All of that economic pain, well, that's the leverage. That's what Iran just created for itself. So, armed with that leverage, Iran made its move. And you have to understand, the demand to price oil in yuan wasn't just some logistical tweak. It was a direct strike at the very foundation of the modern global economy. For as long as most of us can remember, the global economy has run on a system called dollar dominance. It's pretty simple, really. Because oil is priced in dollars, every country needs to hold US dollars just to buy it. This creates this constant, massive demand for the currency, and that gives the United States immense economic power, including the ability to effectively enforce its sanctions. You see, trading in dollars just reinforces the current system. But trading in yuan, that changes the game entirely. For China, it's a huge step toward making its currency a global player. And for countries like Iran, it's a financial escape hatch, a way to trade completely outside the reach of US sanctions.
So this is about way, way more than just shipping lanes. What we are actually witnessing is a military conflict being used as a launchpad for a calculated challenge against the world's financial hierarchy.
And that right there is the crucial takeaway. Iran has effectively weaponized its control over a physical choke point to attack a financial one. They have cleverly turned a regional military crisis into a moment of leverage against the global dominance of the US dollar.
All right, so let's put it all together. What are the big takeaways here? First, Iran has masterfully turned a defensive crisis into an offensive economic weapon. Second, this move hands China a golden opportunity to push its currency onto the world stage. And third, it's a powerful signal that the next global conflict might not be fought with tanks and planes, but with currencies and financial systems. And that leaves us with the really big question. Is this just a temporary power play in a devastating conflict, or are we seeing the first major crack in the system of dollar dominance, a glimpse into a new, multipolar future for global trade? I guess only time will tell.